So, welcome to this little information slideshow about our sensory herb apprenticeship.
We've been running the apprenticeship for many, many years in response to coming out of our degree program and really imagining the way that we wish that we'd been trained in herbalism. Because we did this 4 year, full-time, uber scientific training that was incredible, really rigorous, but we were quite ill at the end of it. It was exhausting, it was very left-brained, it was all the science and absolutely none of the more intuitive, more esoteric, more sensitive aspects of the craft of herbalism.
And we did feel extremely lucky to have been taught this amazing scientific foundation. But we felt a bit sad that science seems to be so separated from the magic and the real earth wisdom. And we really set about to try and bridge that gap to bring the magic back into the science and medicine to have both of those aspects held within it. And we've known each other for a fair little while, haven't we, Kaz?
Yes, look at our baby faces there. He was still a teenager.
And we'd have done lots of silly things over the years together, but all centered around our absolute love of the plants, of dressing up in costumes that represent different plants. Those are the sexy senoritas down there on the right-hand side. And that was after we developed our passion potion. And we're in a nightclub up in Bradford there, trying to entice people over to the herb side by giving them drops of potions to try and keep them dancing and stimulated through the evening rather than turning to more slightly damaging aspects of party life.
Yeah, and all the way through our relationship together and opening and starting our business that's a social enterprise, a community interest company, we've let the plants lead us and lead the journey. And we do a lot of our work with oracle cards, and we've developed our own oracle cards. And we regularly pick a card and let that plant and that message lead the next few months of whatever we're doing, whatever aspect of herbalism we've decided to focus our attention on. And that keeps it creative, it keeps it fun. We've both got quick minds. We get quite bored with doing the same things, anything mundane. So we need excitement. We need lots of bright colour. We need to keep moving with the imagination and the creative.
But actually, the apprenticeship structure, the content has developed and grown, but the actual structure of the sensory herb apprenticeship has remained really stable. We set it up in 2009. And each year we go through a seasonal journey. And you might know the Sensory Herbal Handbook. You can see us there being very excited about it being published. That was our first book, but it was based on this system, this seasonal system, which we present to you on the apprenticeship with this very weighty course handbook that we love that's got spaces for notes and lots of interesting information and all of the structure in there.
The very first few apprenticeships that we did, we didn't have any handouts whatsoever. And, we began and we knew that we wanted to work through the seasons. But it wasn't until the third year that we were running the course that one of the apprentices, it was lovely Charlie, turned to us and said, "Can I have some handouts, please? Because I
It'd be
can't."
really nice to have some handouts.
So we started making handouts, and over the years, those handouts became what's now the course handbook, which is really weighty with all the handouts that you could possibly need.
And it's different from the Sensory Herbal Handbook, the published book that you saw in the last slide. It's very specific to this course because we try to mix up the creativity and the spirituality and the connection with the scientific understanding of the plants and the body so that there's room for both in there. And the course handbook's a bit of an anchor point for all of that. So this is our system that we work through, and we begin in September, which is the autumn time or the fall. And when we set up the system of sensory herbalism, what we looked at was which plant part is most prevalent. What do we find ourselves surrounded with in our herb cabins at different times of the year? And in autumn, it tends to be a lot of the harvest, the seeds, the fruits, the hips and the haws that are all out in abundance on the hedgerows. And we link that with the element of air, those autumnal winds that blow. A lot of the seeds are carried on the air. And the air is associated in the body with the nervous system and the breath as we inspire and expire. And the nerves are these real carriers of messages and different emotional responses throughout the body, and is the real foundation of good health is our nervous system's response to stresses in the environment.
So the first autumnal weekend is focused around this element of air. And each of the weekends we move through a different element. And come the November weekend, the winter, we're moving into the earth element. And at that time of year, we work with the root systems of the plant, because after the autumn fruits, the hips and the haws, the plants start to die back and die down, and everything becomes a lot quieter. And that's where we go digging. It's the messiest of all the weekends because everything gets muddy. And we look at the digestive system because we think of the digestion as the foundations, the root of health, and the deep skeletal system as well.
And that digestive system is what's responsible for feeding the nerves, for making sure that we're getting enough nourishment and nutrients to the nerves. And if the digestive system's a bit out of kilter, you'll find that health knock-on effects of that can be really great. So the digestive system and the nervous system are normally as herbalists where we go to first to see where we're at. And once we've treated those, we might move into more individual treatment of disease, depending on how it looks. And then we move on to March time when the waters start to flow, all the rivers get into spate after the winter melts and the rainy times. And all of that root energy that's been stewing up and growing all of its energy over the winter starts to burst forth these lush leaves. And we get all of those chlorophyll and mineral rich leaves coming forwards. So we link their springtime with the water element and these really cleansing systems within the body, the lymphatic system that runs all throughout the body and has our lymph glands on it, that's responsible for helping the blood to decide what's needed and not needed within the body. It's where a lot of pathogens are spotted, and if a healthy immune system and everything else is working in harmony, then the lymph will help to excrete and take out of the blood things that aren't needed. And the urinary system is extremely important as one of our excretory organs for helping to clear out any unwanted debris that's floating around in the body.
And the spring's a time that we have a focus on detoxification pathways, and people are invited to take part in their own detoxification before we all meet. So, eliminating certain foods or alcohol and caffeine from the diet. And this is often one of the most daunting exercises for people, especially with caffeine and sugars. But also create some of the most profound changes and transitions long term. And then in the summer months, we come into the fire element. There's real heat and light, and we focus on the plant part of flower, these attractors, the attractors of all the pollination. And we look at the circulatory system in the body and the heart and how things move around in the blood.
And over the course of the year, there are two presentation points.
You can see Elle here, our lovely apprentice from last year. She came and helped us. Elle was embodying Lady's Mantle here, Al Camilla, and she made herself a beautiful hat and she brought in the leaves and she'd also made an infused water and told us about her own personal relationship. And that's what we task people to do. On the very first weekend, people are chosen by a herb. So people come and they'll pick a card, and that card that's picked is the herb that they journey with throughout the entire year. And we're suggesting to people to go and meet that plant, potentially grow the plant and interact with that plant throughout all these different seasonal growing cycles. And then come and tell us a bit of a story and present as though you were the plant. And each year it just astounds us at the brilliant creativity and fun and connection that's gleaned through this exercise.
Here's just some examples of other ways that people presented. Laurie here is an amazing artist, and she'd done this beautiful drawing here of the rose hips and the idea of the cyclical nature of life, looking at death and birth. And then we've got Amy dressed as the rose hips down there. And then, of course, we look at the plants and different preparations and remedies that you can create from them.
The whole journey is a very practical, rooted staging that we show people how we create our tinctures. And we'll make tinctures together out of certain herbs, and then people will be tasked with actually taking those tinctures for themselves and keeping a diary so that we can compare. And every single person in the group can have a slightly different reaction and interaction with the plant. So it becomes really invaluable to see just how important our individual terrains are in herbal medicine, and that it doesn't really work in the way that one herb treats one condition. And because all of the people in the group are going through the same thing, working with the same herbs, making the same preparations, there's a lot of opportunity to discuss how things went, if things went well, or if potentially there were challenges and preparations didn't work, why. So it becomes a really brilliant learning circle.
And we also like to bring in the astrology of plants. And we love to bring this into it because it's another framework. If you can understand why certain herbs are associated with certain planets and what the qualities of those planets are, then it's another way of being able to remember and connect certain actions of a plant in with the different planets.
And we also do a lot of observational drawing. And it's not about you being an artist, although some incredibly talented artists have come. It's more about you observing the plant, because when you meet a new plant and you take the time to draw, and a lot of the drawings that we do are done with magnifying glasses as well, really taking a close look at the structure, observing whether the stems are hairy or hairless, looking at how many leaves there are to each leaflet potentially. When you've done a drawing and observed a plant in that kind of detail, you will never mistake the identification of that plant again.
And then we've got the beautiful Asher Centre where we've got this Peace Pavilion, that pink building that we work in. And it's just up the road from St Anthony's Well, which is hidden in the woodlands where you can go for early morning dips. And it's just a really magical, special place. And this spring water runs through the bottom of the land at the Asher Centre as well in the Forest of Dean. And then you get a certificate at the end, which says that you've completed the year. Our course is a foundation course that can lead on to professional training through other organisations like Hartwood and the School of Herbal Medicine. And we have some additional tasks throughout the year if you are interested in that, that we expect you to do to be able to move on, which is mainly around case history taking and understanding a bit more about the therapeutic relationship. But it is also a standalone course. It will give you the skills to be able to do self-guided study with a lot more confidence on your herbal journey and give you connections and community for life.